Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives, and welcome to another roundup of some of the more interesting stories we saw in the auto industry over the past week. Welcome to my new subscribers. Let's get into it. Volvo has finally unveiled their official new flagship sedan, the ES90. This shares its SPA2 platform with the EX90 SUV with some upgraded components, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, remember that Volvo at one point said they were going to be all electric by the end of the decade, and they have since reversed on that and said 90% of their vehicles will either be plug-in hybrid or plug-in electric, which means the ES90 will be sold alongside an updated version of the S90 internal combustion powered sedan, which will likely be all hybrid at some point in the near future. And even though this is a sedan, as the S indicates, it is not quite a traditional sedan proportion. It's more like a tall 2.5 box profile, not unlike the Polestar 2, but scaled to a bigger size. They're claiming a drag coefficient of 0.25, which is pretty good. Not best in class, but still pretty good. And those are nice big 22-inch wheels. It is shorter in length, but taller than the S90. So again, non-traditional proportions. Nice big 122-inch wheelbase provides plenty of space inside. And you can get 44 cubic feet of cargo space with the rear seat folded, because yes, this is a 5-door hatchback, like some of its competitors, not a traditional 4-door sedan. It comes into an increasingly crowded segment, including the iconic Tesla Model S, the newer Lucid Air, the Audi A6 e-tron, and BMW's i5. Underneath the ES90 is Volvo's new Superset technology package. This is a single set of hardware and software modules which will be used on all of Volvo's future EVs, including, we believe, an upgrade to the EX90 based on what their CEO has said. The ES90 will launch as either rear drive or all-wheel drive. That's either a single or a dual motor layout. With a 92 or 106 kilowatt hour battery, up to 670 horsepower, which makes it the most powerful Volvo ever, and 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. Now, unlike the EX90, this is an 800 volt architecture, which means it will charge at up to 350 kilowatts. And we're led to believe that's one of the upgrades that will be coming to the EX90. That'll give these vehicles about 150 miles on the EPA cycle in 10 minutes, or recharge from 10 to 80% in about 20 minutes. Not quite as fast as gasoline, but still pretty darn fast. Based on the WLTP forecast, I'd estimate the EPA range somewhere in the neighborhood of 320 to 340 miles. Inside the ES90 is, as you would expect, a nice clean Scandinavian design, obscured, if only, by the large giant portrait touchscreen, which appears to have been fastened with adhesive to the dashboard, which is unfortunate. It is a nice 14.5-inch size. However, there are what appears to be a few physical controls there just below it, but it is still largely virtual. You can get a Bowers & Wilkins 25-speaker audio system with Dolby Atmos and what they call an Abbey Road mode, which apparently mimics the soundscape, as it were, of the studio where the Beatles recorded so much of their music. You can also get an asthma and allergy-friendly AC filter and an electrochromic glass roof. Running all this is a dual NVIDIA Drive AGX Orin computer, which will be added to the EX90 as well. Volvo says this is 8 times more powerful than its predecessor, capable of a mind-boggling 500 trillion operations per second. Now, Volvo is known for safety, so their safe space technology includes a single LiDAR unit, 5 radar sensors, 8 cameras, and 12 ultrasonic sensors. The biggest challenge, unfortunately, is that the ES90 is only built in China, and that's not a bad thing. It's a state-of-the-art green plant, but means anywhere it goes in the world, like Europe and North America, it will be subject to tariff, at least at the moment, and so that will impact the profitability and the volume of this otherwise extremely competitive vehicle. So definitely it has all the stuff it needs to compete. Now all it needs is a manufacturing setup that allows it to be sold at the price for which it was intended. Mercedes gave us a sneak peek at the GLC EQ, or to use its formal name, the Mercedes GLC with EQ technology. Too long. And this replaces the rather uncompetitive ICE-based EQC, which, believe it or not, it actually was discontinued about 2 years ago, as Mercedes essentially phasing out EQ branded vehicles and merging its ICE and EV portfolio. So when the GLC EQ hits the market next year as an EV, it will be sold alongside the internal combustion GLC, which is on a completely different platform. Now, this platform is the first entry here off the 800 volt MB.EA platform for midsize and large cars and SUVs. Like the Porsche Taycan, it features a 2-speed transmission, which is a little rare in EVs. Most EVs have a single speed, but 2-speed gives you a little more flexibility. Based on the WLTP numbers, it looks like it'll max out at about 320 miles on the EPA cycle, which is Good, but not amazing. Definitely competitive. 320 kilowatt charge rate is very good, and that'll give it about 140 miles in 10 minutes. Mercedes stole a page out of the much more expensive G-Class EQ, and so the GLC EQ will feature battery cells with anodes composed of silicon oxide and graphite. And so that will allow for improved energy density, which of course means smaller and lighter batteries, and getting the mass out is always a good thing. It'll launch as all-wheel drive with rear drive to follow, and surprisingly, it is the first Mercedes with a front. Up to now, every Mercedes EV has had the whole front end pretty much sealed off, except for technicians. And powering the GLC EQ will be their new MB.OS operating system. Production debut is likely at the IAA in Munich this fall, and this will likely be built around the world, which could be in Alabama in the US and Germany and China. So they are looking to sell a lot of these, and of course, key competitor for the GLC EQ will be the BMW iX3, which is due at the end of this year. Now, I can remember years ago going to the Detroit Auto Show when Chery showed up. Chery has been talking about selling cars in the US for something like 15 years. Of course, still not here yet, and the rate we're going still may never happen, but they continue to grow in China and Europe. This is the Jorneo concept, which was designed at Chery's German design studio. It is an expandable midsize van that was originally shown at the Guangzhou Motor Show late last year and then debuted in Germany earlier this month. It is a one-box design with short overhangs, long wheelbase, and as you can see in the upper right, sliding front and rear doors. So kind of cool. And it is targeting the overlanding crowd. So it does a lot of things and can go a lot of places. There's a slide-out glass pod in the back, a frunk that houses seats for tailgating, as well as a mobile kitchen and grill. The roof features integrated solar panels and a retractable awning, and the off-road ability is enhanced with height-adjustable air suspension, proactive shock calibration and road sensing, airless tires, and retractable skid plates. Powering all this is a 2-liter turbo hybrid setup. Don't have any performance numbers, but they say that with a full battery and a full tank of gas, you can go about 1,500 miles. That's on the Chinese cycle. So think 1,200 to 1,300 miles on the EPA cycle, which is still pretty good, which means you can go just about anywhere you need to go. The interior that you see in the lower right is upholstered in sustainable materials. There's a central island, and the swiveling front seats allow you to interact with the people seated in the lounge-style rear seat that, oh, by the way, also transforms into a day bed. No plans for production that we know of, but we know that the Chinese overall are doing more off-roadish, lifestyle-ish type vehicles, more pickup trucks, more SUVs that can go anywhere, like the Hummer. So picking up on the U.S. trend for overlanding, not a big surprise. Would not be surprised to see something like this or close to it hit production in the next couple of years, and for more Chinese automakers to explore this as well for new market opportunities. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the VW ID Everyone as part of VW's plans to do a whole portfolio of affordable EVs for several of their brands. The ID Everyone that you see here was unveiled last week. It previews the production ID1 that is due in 2027 at the price of 20,000 euros, or quite a bit less than almost every other EV that you see in Europe at the moment. It's built off VW Group's new front drive MEB entry platform. That will be shared with the upcoming VW ID2, ID2X, the Skoda Epic, and the Cupra Raval, all to be unveiled over the next year or so. Most significantly, this will apparently be the first VW to use software from the Rivian joint venture. You'll recall that VW has a lot of software issues of late with the launches of their EVs, starting with the ID3, to the point where VW leadership apparently just threw up their hands and said, screw it, we got to find somebody who knows how to do this sort of thing. And they turned to Rivian, who they view as a leader in software and over-the-air updates. So they formed a joint venture. Rivian will start with $1 billion check to Rivian, which is great because they could use the money, and Rivian will help fix Volkswagen's software issues with zonal architecture and new software, which will make this vehicle a software-driven vehicle, even though, or software-defined vehicle. Volkswagen did not use that particular phrase. They called it a customer-defined vehicle, but again, more over-the-air updates, more flexibility, etc. Visually, it's a nice-looking vehicle, very clean, simple services, big, bold graphics, nice 19-inch wheels. There's a valley running through the center of the roof, made for a little aero enhancement. And so if you're a fan of kind of clean Germanic design, then this is the vehicle for you. Maybe not as full of character as a Fiat 500e or a Mini Cooper, but still not unattractive. It's powered by a front-mounted 94 horsepower motor, takes it to about 81 miles per hour, which is not great, but again, this is an urban runabout. The 155-mile range on the European cycle would work out to about 130 miles on the EPA cycle if this was sold here. It will not be sold here. It's a little more of a third or fourth car, or maybe a second car for if you live in a European city. Inside, there was quite question about whether they might ditch the touchscreen for cost, but they did keep it, as you can see. There are physical controls for volume and climate control as well. Volkswagen has said that, yes, we do need physical controls in our vehicles from an HMI standpoint. And the concept does feature a sliding center console and a removable Bluetooth speaker, both of which sound like you could put those into production as well. So that about wraps up the stories of note from the last week or so. If you like what you see in here, please subscribe and share. Visit us at www.autoperspectives.net for more information and more stories in our blog. And we will see you back here in about a week or so. Bye-bye.